A quick favor before we start, if you love the Blueprint Podcast, please rate and review us wherever you listen. It makes a huge difference. Thanks, and enjoy the episode. Welcome to the Blueprint Podcast, where we throw out the old blueprint so you can become who you were always meant to be. I'm your host, Jason Smith, and if you haven't already, make sure you click the subscribe button and share this podcast with your friends on social media and tag me in it at JBirdFit. Today, I have a very special guest for you, Dre Baldwin. Dre is a man who has built his career and life on 4 unshakable pillars: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, and personal initiative. Dre Baldwin played professional basketball for 9 years internationally, but his real legacy started while he was still on the court when he began building Work on Your Game, a philosophy and system designed to help athletes, entrepreneurs, and high performers install the mindset and structure needed to win. Since then, he's delivered 4 TEDx talks, written 41 books, published thousands of videos, and built a daily podcast with millions of downloads. As CEO of Work on Your Game Incorporated, Dre helps people all over the world stop waiting for opportunities and start creating them. This conversation is about the systems, the mindset, and the relentless consistency it takes to play at a high level, on the court and in life. Dre Baldwin, welcome to the Blueprint Podcast.
Thanks for having me on, Jason. Excited to be here. How are you?
I'm really glad to have you. You did something unique that no one else has done in the 117 episodes that I've had of the Blueprint Podcast. And that is, you sent a video directed at me, right? So it wasn't something that was prefab that you send to everybody and you just change out the intro. This was a full video that you sent to me on why you want to collaborate and be on the Blueprint Podcast. And I have to tell you, that is so unique. I would encourage other people to do that in the sea of people that are trying to get on all the different podcasts. We get so many emails of people that want to do that, and I would love to be able to interact with everyone, but you truly set yourself apart. And what's interesting about that is that just seems to be your MO. You always set yourself apart all the way along the way to the point that you've created Work on Your Game that has been around now for over a decade, and helping young people build up their skills and entrepreneurs and leadership skills in all these different areas. Drew Baldwin, tell us a little bit about yourself, who you are and who you help.
Sure. Thank you for the introduction. And my background is playing sports. I played basketball. I started playing basketball late in my teens, mid-teens, around age 14. Only played 1 year in high school, walked on to play at the Division III college level. Played in college, no one was checking me for me to play pro, so I had to hustle and sell myself into an opportunity to play at the pro level, which I did successfully. Led to a 9-year overseas career playing in 8 different countries. At the same time that I started playing, my career began in 2005, by the way. I started putting video up on this new website called youtube.com, and that's where I started to build a brand specifically for basketball. It was just teaching people how to practice basketball, which I did from 05 to about 2015. About halfway through there, Jason, what happened is I found myself unemployed from basketball, so I was looking for a way to make money just in case the phone never rang again, because you never know in sports. And at the same time, I had started to build up a nice little audience on YouTube. And YouTube at that time got purchased by Google, so now you can make money for putting videos on YouTube. So I started putting out more videos, literally every single day, sometimes more than 1 video a day. Self-publishing became a thing. I started putting books out. I'll come back to that in a second. And I started to really start to intentionally build this thing that we now call a personal brand. Because back then, content was a new word. Influencer was not a word. I mean, it was a word, but it wasn't a word. And putting content out all the time was not a career aspiration. That was not a thing that you just did. So at that same time, around 2010, the players who were following me on YouTube started asking me questions about the mindset, mental aspect of the game. And when I started talking about those things, the players appreciated it, yes, but also people who didn't play ball started finding me. And they would tell me, Dre, the stuff you're talking about applies to people who are not athletes the same way it applies to those who are. They didn't say that in so many words, but I figured it out. So that told me I can serve this audience of people even if I stop with basketball, because everyone knows in sports, eventually it stops. So either you become a trainer, a coach, analyst, or you got to find something else to do. I always knew I wanted to do something else, but I didn't know what the something else would be. So when these people told me that the mental aspect of sports could be extracted and it could apply to people who didn't play sports, I said, that's exactly what I'm going to do. So in 2015, when I stopped playing, I already had this momentum. So when I told you I would come back to the books, I started writing books around the mindset aspects of sports. So that's when my book publishing thing began, and being an author. I was already creating courses. I was talking about mindset. I was building up an audience of not just athletes, but non-athletes. So in 2015, when I stopped playing professionally, I just went full time into what I do now. And it started with the mindset, and we've added on the strategy, the systems, and the accountability. And that's what my company, which is called Work on Your Game, is all about today.
So when it comes to making those pivots, I think so many people today are in that position right now where they're discovering, and I went through it myself, where you find yourself in this place where you're no longer doing the job that you thought that you were going to do for the next 20 years. You thought, great, man, this is going to be amazing. I'm going to retire. Maybe I'll go into teaching afterwards. I got my master's degree. And all of a sudden now I'm creating content that definitely wasn't on my bingo card. So what was it for you that helped you pivot from one situation to the next?
Well, I've had so many pivots. The number one thing, I would have to go back in the story to about 2002. So I was on my college campus, and there was this bulletin board posting. For the Gen Zers, those who know the bulletin board is the internet, but printed out, like the physical version before we had the internet, where if someone wanted to announce something, there was a big board on the campus. So I walked past the board, and it says, "You want to make some extra money in the summertime?" And I did, because I was an athlete. Now, people don't understand. Back then, there was no such thing as name, image, and likeness. If you were an athlete, you were not allowed to make money based on who you were. If you made money, you were violating the rules, and you couldn't play at all. So we were extra broke. You can't play and you can't get a job because you have full-time student, full-time athlete. So I responded. Turns out this guy was doing what I came to know as network marketing. Now, the reason why that matters is not because I built a business in network marketing, but because I went to a couple of the meetings, and at the meetings, anyone who's ever been to one, those hotel meetings, about 80% of the meeting is about principles of money making and business. It's not really about a specific product. And in that meeting, I learned a couple things about business and making money that wasn't being taught to me in school. Now, I have a 4-year business degree, and I was very curious as to why my school teachers were not teaching the same thing they were teaching at this meeting, because it sounded like it made a lot of sense. That was number one. The second thing is that the man on the stage said, if you're going to build a business, you cannot build the business any further than you build yourself as a person. And that made sense to me. He said, you're leading a bunch of people. If you don't grow, they can't grow, which made perfect sense. He said, to that end, you need to invest in what he called personal development. Now, I never heard of the phrase, but I'd always been into reading books. My mom's an educator, so I was always into reading. And when I went to the back of the room, outside of the room, there were women selling these books, personal development. He name dropped these authors: Zig Ziglar, Tony Robbins, Jim Rohn, Brian Tracy. I never heard of any of these guys, and I couldn't afford the books, Jason. So I told myself, when I get back to school, I'll see if I can find them. So I went on eBay, and all this connects to the pivot. I went on eBay, and this is before Amazon was the place to buy books. And I bought a pirated copy of 2 of the books I could remember. One of them was Think and Grow Rich by Napoleon Hill. Now, this was a book that showed me that there's a way that you can consciously alter your patterns of thought to alter your actions and your outcomes. So that was the start on the road of, okay, there's an intentional genre of this kind of stuff. And there were millions more. And the other book I read was called Rich Dad, Poor Dad by Robert Kiyosaki. And that book explained that, hey, there's another way to make money besides going and being employed by somebody. And that stuck in my head. So let's fast forward, 2009, 2010. I just finished reading a book that had just come out called The 4-Hour Workweek by Tim Ferriss. Now, he was taking the same principles of Kiyosaki and basically revolutionizing it for the digital world. Here's how you take the same principles, do it on the internet. He didn't say that, but that's what it seemed like to me. So the first pivot was, let me start thinking about my business life, because this basketball thing might not last. Because mind you, as I told you, Jason, at the time, the phone's not ringing. And when you're an athlete, most people think athlete means you're Serena Williams or LeBron or Tiger Woods. They're always employed. But most athletes, even the pro level, sometimes we don't know if their phone's going to ring again. You're in between jobs. Same thing with actors and actresses. You see them working at Starbucks or busting tables because they don't know if that call's going to come. So I didn't know. So that's why I started to do the things that became my business at that time. So that was the first quote unquote pivot. Luckily, the phone rang again. I kept playing until 2015. As far as when I stopped playing in 2015, the reason why I stopped is because I just saw more opportunity for myself in business as far as how I could advance my life forward rather than continuing to grind as an athlete. Because I told you, I came out of a Division III college. I only played 1 year in high school. It was not in the cards for me to become a pro for 1 year, let alone for 9. I had to grind it throughout my career just to keep my career going, not only on the court, but off the court. The good thing, Jason, is I'm a marketer and I'm a salesperson. I know how to sell myself. So that's why I was able to get my opportunities that I did get, but I didn't want to keep doing that. And I knew eventually, no matter how good you are, eventually the game ends. So I saw an opportunity to do that. I walked away from basketball after 9 years, almost 10. And that's when I pivoted into going into business. And the reason why I was so comfortable doing that, Jason, is because I already had momentum going. So I wasn't most athletes, when they're playing a professional sport, that requires a professional commitment. You pretty much are doing that and only that. Now, it's not a 9-to-5 job because you can't work 8 hours a day at your body. You can't do it. Physically, it's not possible. We have a lot of free time, but most athletes are not trying to build anything for their next chapter in life. And I know for a fact this is true. I'll give you a quick anecdote. Now, a couple of years after I stopped playing, I got hired by the NBA to speak to players in their developmental league known as the G League. And the G League is the minor league for basketball. And I spoke to every team in that league over the course of a season. And at the meetings, there'd be 20 players, 10 players from each team. They were about to play in a game. The next day, we would meet them and talk to them. And my talk, it would be a few of us. My talk was about how you're going to get ready for the next chapter in your life. Because I'm a recently stopped playing ball player. So I was perfect for them. Out of every 20 guys I talked to, there were maybe 3 guys in every audience that really cared about what I had to say. The rest of them, they just wanted to play ball. Because athletes, they're just thinking about the ball thing. So for me, I had a smoother transition because I started to build my next chapter while I was still in the previous chapter. Because I didn't know if the next chapter would keep going. Now, players who are more talented than me, they didn't have that problem because it's a quote-unquote problem because they knew they were going to stay employed. So those were a couple of reasons why I pivoted when I did. I know I gave you a long answer there, but hopefully that answers the question.
No, I absolutely agree with all of that. But the question then becomes, and I think a lot of us struggle with this, is where did you find the confidence to continue going at each stage that you were in?
In those stages, I didn't see a plan B. So when it came to basketball, if I didn't make it as a basketball player and actually start playing in the first place, my plan B was, I'll tell you what I was doing when I got my first job. I was working at a gym called Bally Total Fitness. And I was living in my parents' home, and I was paying my mom. I was giving my mother, because I went to my dad at one point, and my dad went to me. And he said, if you're going to be living in our house, you should at least offer your mom to pay some form of rent because you're a grown man now. So I went and asked her, she said, give me $50 a week. And sometimes I didn't have the $50, Jason. I didn't always have it, the $50. So that was my life when I signed my first contract to play pro ball. I was 23 years of age. I didn't see a plan B. I didn't know what I would have done had I not made it. Then when it came to that inflection point where the phone wasn't ringing, I just said, okay, if the phone doesn't ring, I need a way that I know I can continue to make money and live as an adult. And that's why I went all in on the building a personal brand, writing books, courses, selling products, et cetera, et cetera. That worked. And then the next pivot which is when I stopped playing, was either keep trying to play basketball or go into this entrepreneurial thing. So that was the first time I had a choice. I could just keep trying to play, or I could go into the entrepreneurial thing. What gave me the confidence to go into business was I never wanted to cheat the game in sports. I was the type of person to work out 2-3 times a day throughout my career. And when I got tired of doing that, I remember I took a whole week off. I was living in South Beach at the time. I took a whole week off and didn't work out at all and said, let me just see how I feel. I feel out of sorts because when I was playing, if I missed the workout, I felt wrong. Something's missing if I didn't get a workout in. I did a whole week and didn't work out at all, and I didn't feel bad. I said, I'm done. I knew I was done at that point because it's the work, not the games, that really make you a pro. And when I didn't miss doing the work, I knew it was time for me to walk away. So that's what gave me the confidence.
And did you have a mentor during this time period?
Not on the court in basketball. I had trainers, but they weren't like telling me how to guide my career. I was pretty much figuring that out on my own because the information for how to play the game that I was in, that information didn't exist until I did it. So nowadays there's information because people read my books and they watched my videos on it, but nobody was telling me. As far as business, yes. I'll tell you this quick story. So 2014, I'm looking at the end of my playing career, and I was playing pickup basketball at the University of Miami, and I'm sitting next to this guy who's happened to be a doctor. This guy's 6'10", he was a doctor. And we're talking basketball, and I'm telling him I'm playing overseas, and I'm telling him, hey, I'm about to get out of basketball. I think I want to move on to something else. He said, what are you going to do? And I said, I'm thinking maybe be a professional speaker. Because at this time, I have all these videos on YouTube where I'm talking mindset. Remember, I mentioned that. So when I'm talking mindset, the players who are watching me on YouTube said, Dre, you have a really good way of putting words together. You're really articulate. You sound like a college professor or a philosopher. They would say that as a compliment. So I found out there was a business, a career where you could just talk for a living, professional speaking. But I didn't know anything about it. And I said, I'm thinking of being a professional speaker. So this doctor says to me, have you ever heard of this group called Toastmasters? And I'd heard of Toastmasters, but I didn't know what they were. And he said, yeah, it's a place where people meet for speaking and maybe that'll help you. So I went to the next meeting in South Beach, and it turns out Toastmasters is not really there to teach you how to be a professional speaker. It's more about learning how to communicate, period. But here's the funny thing. I go to the meeting. I give my first speech. They call it the icebreaker. It's about 4 or 5 minutes long. Videos on YouTube. And I'm explaining I used to play basketball. I'm about to stop playing, and I'm looking to get into professional speaking. I don't know where to go or what to do, but I'm the type of person who I just knock on doors. So maybe something will happen here, maybe not, but I'm going to figure it out. So the meeting ends, and another guy walks up to me. So at this meeting, this is at the Botanical Garden, Miami Beach. There's only about 10 people in the meeting, and there's only 2 black people, me and this other guy. So this black guy walks up to me and he says, "Hey man, I heard your speech. You're a really good speaker and your journey sounds a little bit like mine." Turns out this guy plays in the NFL. And I didn't know, I knew his name when he told me his name, but I didn't know his face because in football they wear the helmets. So you don't know what they look like. So when I found out his name, I said, "I heard of this guy, but I didn't know what he looked like." So I just retired too, and I want to get into speaking. Epiphany. He says, "I'm about to go to this event where it's all about speaking and everybody who's a speaker is going to be there. So anybody I meet, I'll just pass the info to you." Because he asked me if I wanted to go. I told him I couldn't make it because I had a prior arrangement. But he said, "Anybody I meet, I'll give you the info." This event was called the National Speakers Association, National Conference in San Diego. He goes, he gives me back one person's number. That woman, I called her, and I remember talking to her on the phone. And she was sitting at her desk. I could tell because when I got her on the phone, I said, "Hey, I got your number from such and such that he mentioned." She said, "Yeah, he did." And then I tell her who I am, what I'm trying to do. She says, "Do you have a website?" And I said, "Yes." I give her my website name, and I could hear her typing the keys in. And at this, I had a website for a long time. So I could see her looking at it, and I could hear the wheels turning in her head because there was something on my website. So I could see that she saw I was on YouTube, and I had written books already, and I had a name. And she said, "Okay, we can meet." So we scheduled to meet at a Starbucks north of Miami. And this meeting is supposed to be about 30 minutes. And she was just going to give me the ropes and find out what I do. That 30 minutes turned into 3 hours. And the reason that 30 minutes became 3 hours, not because I'm so great, but she was talking and I was taking notes. And after about 45 minutes of talking, she said, "Is any of this useful to you?" And I remember I was using Evernote. I was typing while she was writing, and I turned the screen around to show it to her. And she was like blown away because I'm like a court stenographer. I can type very fast. So when I'm talking to someone, even when I'm on sales calls, I'll be writing while someone's talking and they can't tell. And then I'll give back to them what they said. And they're like, "What kind of software are you using to tell me exactly what I said?" And I'm like, "No, I'm writing." But anyway, she became my mentor and she showed me the game, and she basically explained to me the corporate world or the speaking business. They love athletes because the leadership aspect, the teamwork aspect, the working with other people, and the showing up every day, mindset, confidence, discipline. Same things they need in business, same thing they need in sports, they need in business. So this is great, Dre. You got to figure out how to package it up, give it a name, and how do you explain it to people who don't play sports? I said, okay, I just got to figure that out. So that's where the whole work on your game framework came from. So she was the mentor.
Man, that's amazing. It seems like at each level, there may have been some challenges and a lot of unknowns, but things seem to have fallen into place. And that's really just an aspect of life that we often don't look at for ourselves. We get in this place of worry and fear and feelings of anxiousness and winding ourselves up and not understanding that when you are putting good out into the world, when you put out your intentions, when you are the person that you know that you say that you are, and you're showing up in all of those different areas, there's going to be a ton of networking opportunities and things that come available to you just by being more of you. It's amazing.
Yes, I agree. Showing up. I've always been the type of person, I think it was Woody Allen, they said showing up is 80% of the job, or whoever said it. I think they give him credit for it, but I'm always just showing up.
So many people believe confidence is something you have or you don't have. How do you respond to that? And what's one actionable thing that someone can do to build their confidence right now?
Confidence is not an innate trait. It's not an inborn trait. So that idea is incorrect. Confidence is something that absolutely can be built, and it must be built because, and it's actually a couple different angles to look at this. So the first thing is this: we are born confident. Every child is pretty confident. I have a 3-year-old son. He's confident. He knows what he wants. He asks for what he wants. And if you ask him if he wants something that he doesn't want, he will directly tell you no. And he doesn't explain it. He just says, "No, I don't want that. I don't want to get on the potty. I don't want this." So we're born with that level of confidence. What happens is as we grow and we get smarter and our brains develop, we get socialized out of our confidence. We get socialized out of directly saying no when the answer is no. We get socialized out of asking for what we want, going for what we want. We learn we have to sit down, shut up, and wait until we get permission. that destroys confidence. And as we get older, it gets further ingrained into us. And the further we go into areas where we have to wait for permission to do things that we want to do. So what often happens for adults, if we're going to get our confidence back, we have to unlearn some of the nonsense that we've been taught by socialization. So the way that we get confidence, if someone wants to build their confidence right now, man, there's so many different ways. Are we talking right now, like in our lives, or right now, 5 minutes?
Within the next 5 minutes, what's the first step that I can take right now to start building my confidence?
Sure. Stand up straight, put your shoulders back, put your head up, put your chest out, make direct eye contact with everyone you come across. And Jason used to be a cop, so they probably teach you all this, right? I'm assuming.
Command presence, yes.
Yes, exactly. And most people don't understand that, but I know from anytime I see a police officer, when they engage with a person, I can just tell by their body language. They assume a certain body language that gives them authority in the exchange. And I said that has to be taught. There's no way that they just find people who are like that. But most people don't understand that. So put yourself in a certain body language. It gives you a certain authority without saying a word. And people can just read it off you without saying anything. And even if you're not in uniform, I'm sure people can tell it even reading off of you when you're walking into Target or something like that. I'm sure it happens. Why? It's not the face. It's the entirety of you, but they're just looking at your face. And it's their lack of that command presence compared to your command presence that makes it seem like you're this person in authority. And also the eye contact. These days, nobody makes eye contact because everybody's looking at their phones. So all of these things, and there are a bunch of little things, but added together and codified to where it becomes the normal you. Now it makes you stand out from everyone else. So that's the easy way to get confidence, is change your physiology.
I was listening to one of your TED Talks, and it says you can only be too much when the other person doesn't have enough.
That's right.
That goes so in line with what we're talking about here, because when you're young, you're right, you do have this innate confidence, and then it's conditioned out of you over a long period of time. So before you're even 9 years old, that confidence has been conditioned out of you. And then you live the rest of your adolescence into your adult age thinking that this is who you are and this is how you're supposed to show up and this is who you're supposed to be. And all of these things become your core limiting beliefs in the way that you think about yourself, your position in the world, the language that you use with yourself. And it very quickly becomes, I'm not good enough, I'm not smart enough, I'm not capable, I can't do this. And you see the world from that perspective. And you allow people to bowl over you or push you over, and you never fully bring anything into fruition for yourself, your dreams, your goals, your hopes, your desires, your wishes, and your prayers, because you're often afraid that you're going to be too much.
Absolutely. And that's the socialization, is how we get viewed by other people. And when you're around others who are, let's say, inadequate in a certain area, or they're a lot lesser than you, they have a choice. They can either look at you and say, wow, that's amazing, how can I catch up? Or they'll say, wait, something's wrong with you. Why don't you come back to earth where we are? So your environment plays a big role in that, because you get around a bunch of people who have a certain level of confidence, they're going to encourage your confidence. You get around people who don't have much and you're confident, they may pull you down. They could try to catch up, but catching up takes effort and it takes work, and most people are lazy. So your environment plays a huge role, who you're around, and also internally, how do you deal with that kind of feedback from the universe? Do you look at it as, these people don't know what they're talking about, so I'll ignore what they said? Or I really value what these people said, so I guess I need to adjust myself? It depends on how you respond.
It's interesting because, and you've been on social media long enough to know this, that there's always going to be people in the comments section that are going to tell you all of the limitations that you're supposed to have and all the reasons why you can't be doing the things that you're doing and having the thought process that you have. But they always end up coming back down the road. Once they see you being more successful, you've put in the time, the effort, you've done all the things that you know that you need to do to propel yourself forward. You'll find them 6 months, a year down the road, they find your content again, or they've been watching the entire time. And you'll get a DM saying, thank you for being you and for doing the things that you've been doing to put the message out into the world, because it changed me. It shifted my perspective. It helped me. And every now and again, you get the person that says, it saved me.
And I'm sure that's very gratifying for you to know that you putting your message out there has made an impact on other people. That's one of the best things about the internet and our interconnectedness and this wide open platform we have for publishing, is that there are some trade-offs to it, but one of the great things is that you can put anything out there and it could theoretically reach anybody else in the world who has a data plan or Wi-Fi access. And I would agree with you when it comes to the content that somebody will disappear, come back, or never make themselves known, but be watching your stuff for years. And then when they finally make themselves known, you ask them, how do you know about me? They say, I've been following you since 2017, but you never knew who they were. But they've been following the entire time. They were just waiting for the right opportunity to make themselves seen. For us content creators and publishers, you had to be aware of you got the vocal minority. Those are the people leaving the comments and saying stuff, and hopefully it's positive, but it won't always be. And then you have the silent majority. Most of the people watching you, you don't know that they're there, and they don't want you to know they're there until they want you to know. So understand that you can't get too worked up over what you can hear because that's only about 5% of your audience. The other 95% is not saying anything.
Which is why you have to be really clear on your own mission and vision, as well as the intention for why you're creating content or whatever it is around what you're building. Now,
that's right.
You've got 41 books. Is that right?
That's right.
What got you started on publishing all of these books?
Great question. So the first book is the only one of mine that's a complete narrative. It's called Buy a Game, and you can't see it up here, but that was the book that I wrote back when my audience was almost exclusively basketball. And the players were just asking about my background because it was interesting to them that this guy who started playing at 14, got cut on his high school team 3 times and walked on D3 and played overseas. How'd you do it? So I wrote a book basically telling my life from the time I started playing up through college. That was the only one that's a narrative. And then all the rest of them became basically book versions of the things that I was already saying in video. So a bunch of my books are mindset based because that's where I started, was the mindset pieces: discipline, confidence, mental toughness, taking initiative. Then I wrote several books on overseas basketball, like literally how to play, like guidebooks on how to play overseas, what to understand about basketball agents, understanding the industry, the business, etc. Then it was more mindset stuff, then books on business and entrepreneurship, sales, books on discipline, books on communication skills and leadership skills. Then I have a book called Work on Your Game. That's the next closest to a narrative, where I'm basically laying out the entire framework of Work on Your Game, where it came from, why it is, and what experiences led to those pieces being those pieces, why I'm the one talking about it. And what got me into that was that I've always been a big reader myself. My mother is an educator, and she's into early education, Jason. So when I was younger, my mom would always go to the bookstore. And this is back when, if you wanted books, you had to go to the bookstore. This is not Amazon days. And I would go with her sometimes, and she would go to the child section and get books that she would use to teach the kids. I would go to the sports section, and then I would go to the human psychology section, which now they've broken that up into personal development, personal growth, success. So I would always go to that section because I was always interested in the human brain and how it works. And is there a way I could change my thinking, and changing my thinking will change my actions? I don't know where I got the idea, but I was always into that. And again, I didn't know it was a thing called personal development until I was in college and I went to that network marketing meeting. So that's what got me into reading. I've always been a huge reader. So then when I saw the opportunity that you can write a book and you can put it out and you don't have to go through the red tape of someone's approval, I just hit the gas pedal on that, and I just kept doing it because I knew that books, they're a credibility piece, number one. Number two, there were things I wanted to say that I needed to put into a book that I didn't want to put in a video. Number three, I like reading books. So I figured if I put it in writing, maybe some other people might want to read it as well. So that's what got me into writing so many.
So with all the books that you've written and all the things that you've gone through, hindsight being 2020, what is one piece of advice that you would give to your younger self today? You can keep searching online and having late night chats with the latest version of ChatGPT, but you still feel like nothing's changed because the truth is, answers aren't the same as action. And the questions that really matter, they're not meant for a search bar. They're meant for real conversations with people who see you, challenge you, and walk with you while you change. That's exactly what the Take a Walk With Me community is. We start September 2nd. Only 30 founding spots at $697 for the year. Locked in for life. Join before August 25th, and you'll get 2 of my best courses worth $594 for free.
No wait list, no exceptions. Comment the word community on social media or check out the link in the show notes.
Invest in personal development as soon as possible. Get around high quality people who are going to challenge you. You're going to regret everything that you did not do, but none of the things that you did do, even if they don't work out.
And tell us a little bit more about Work on Your Game University. What is it? Who is it for? And what makes your approach different from other business coaches or programs?
Sure. So Work on Your Game University is for high-level professionals and entrepreneurs. Anyone who's in a high-performance environment where measurable results are a mandate of your work. So this can be entrepreneurs on their own. This can be sales teams, people who are in the sales business. These are places where there's a measurable outcome and you are measured by the results of your performance. And what Work on Your Game University is, we extracted all the tools to help an athlete get to the top 2% in the sports world. And we translated those tools over to the business world through our system, which we call the Work on Your Game system. And what we do there is we weaponize discipline, performance, systems, strategy, and accountability to help people perform at that top 2% level the same way an athlete does. We do it in business.
So how do you translate that background that you have into the corporate world?
Sure. The first thing is the mindset piece, which is the way that you see yourself, the way that you have, as you said, command presence. The way that you see yourself determines what you actually do. So we have to get the mindset changed if we're going to change the outcomes, because outcomes are a byproduct of actions. The actions are a byproduct of identity. So you got to get your identity right first. That's the mentality. And that's an ongoing job. That's not something we do and then we check the box and it's over. That's an ongoing job. You never stop doing it. So that's the mindset piece. Next piece is the strategy. And strategy is a plan of action. Okay, we want to win the championship this year. What has to happen? What steps need to be taken? We deconstruct from the goal of the championship back to where we are here today in training camp. Same thing that we would do with a business person who says, okay, I want to write 3 books. Okay, to get these 3 books written, what needs to be true? We work backwards till we get to where we are today, and then we flip that around, and that's going to be a rough outline of the game plan. That's strategy, plan of action. Next is the system. What makes a system different from a strategy is a system is how do we execute a winning working strategy in a codified way that you can show somebody else how to do it and they can do the same thing you did, the same thing the system says rather, and get the exact same result over and over again. Example of that would be Starbucks or McDonald's. You go to Starbucks or McDonald's where you are, Jason, you go there where I am, and we order the same thing. It should look and taste exactly the same. Why? Because the system is doing most of the work. The people are just doing what the system tells them to do. And that's what really gives business people leverage when you start creating systems, because the system becomes an entity in and of itself rather than you having to be the main driver of every positive outcome in your business. And then the last piece is the accountability. Accountability is about how do we make sure that not only are the people doing what they're supposed to do, of course, but also making sure that our strategies and our systems are working properly. Because if you execute the system and don't get the outcome, that means we got to fix the system. And if the system is not executed properly, we have to fix whoever's doing the execution. So the accountability is making sure that everything is held to account and it's counting up to the outcome that we expect it to come to. And this all leads to high levels of performance done consistently through a system, and that produces the result. And this is a results-based business. And as long as you're producing results, you always get the business. And when you produce results, you get whatever rewards you prefer. So the same thing I just explained there, I could say to a room full of corporate salespeople, or I could say to a football team. The same principles apply.
Now, when people hire you on, what type of results or outcome are they generally looking for? Or better question, what is probably the number one question or problem or issue that they have that they're trying to solve for?
Top 3, easily. Number 1, I want to make more money. That's almost always one of the answers.
Who doesn't?
No, yeah, they want to, on some level, they want to make more money. Another one is I want to have more control. I feel like I don't have as much control as I want to have. That can be the person who's been working jobs, but they want to own their own business, or they're hybrid right now, but they just want to go full-time owning their own thing so that they are more independent. And then the third one is I need to work on the intangibles. I need to be more disciplined. I need to work out more. I don't feel like I'm confident enough. I need to be more mentally tough when I'm facing challenges. So usually it's one of those 3. Make more money. I want more autonomy, and I need to do something with my internal mechanisms.
So for the solopreneur like myself, how do you make more money? I can tell you right now has been one of the biggest challenges, I think, for me and a lot of coaches that are out there, and I speak with a lot of them. They all have podcasts, and we find ourselves in this place where it feels like you're almost competing with ChatGPT. And I think that we are on some level, because I think people are giving over their autonomy and agency over to AI at this point, asking very personal questions, medical questions, all these things. And there's no safety or security in what you're doing when you do that. I don't know that people necessarily realize that. So what would you tell somebody who's that solopreneur that is looking to make a huge impact or a dent in their business and start bringing in that cash flow once again?
Number one is figuring out if you're going to do something like coaching. Coaching is a high touch business. Same as consulting. It's high touch, meaning what you are trading on is much more the relationship than it is the information. The information gets people in the door, but the relationship keeps them in the room. And where does that relationship comes from? It comes from this thing that I call psychographic alignment. A lot of people tend to focus on demographic alignment, which is, hey, I want a mother who's 35 to 45 with 3 kids and living in the southern part of the country and drives a Toyota and earns between $80,000 and $100,000 a year. Those are demographics. Yeah. Demographics are about the way a person thinks and how you align psychologically with another person. And the way that you can do that, another great thing about the internet and content publishing is that for the most part, close to free, you can share with people where you are psychologically, and you can just put it out. And that's why you have a podcast. That's why you have an email list. That's why you have social media. You can put it out and tell people, here's what I'm thinking. Here's where I stand. Here's my position on such and such topic, whatever it is you want to talk about. And the people who agree with you are going to come further and further into your world. And eventually they raise their hands and say, hey, I'm a person who's more interested in what you have. You just have to give them the opportunity to raise their hands. That's usually in the form of, hey, here's my coaching program, or here's my fill out this form, have a call with me, or here's my book. Do you want to buy it? Something that you make an offer for them to take a step forward into your world. And what separates one coach from the next, again, is the psychographics, not the demographics. So the people who come into my world, I know that they are psychographically aligned with me because they've consumed enough of my stuff. And I put enough of it out there that I know that they know exactly where I'm at and how I think, what I think about and how I talk about things. And sometimes the things that either how I say things or what I say are going to push some people away. That's fine, because the people who come in, they are that much more bought in because I know I've separated the group. The thing about that a lot of people get afraid of, especially when they're relatively new, is that the us versus them dynamic is one of the oldest tricks in the book when it comes to moving humans to action. Is that human beings love being a part of something that they know not everybody's a part of. And people don't value being a part of something that everyone can be a part of. So when you create a group and say, and Seth Godin, I believe, I heard him say it the most, people like us do things like this. And that's what it is. You need to make it clear, this is our group. People like this do this. And this applies in every aspect of life. You see the most powerful and most influential people, and that's exactly what they do. They get very clear on where they stand, why they stand there, clear lines between them and everybody else, and they hammer it over and over and over again until the people who are that raise their hands, and the people who hate it, they rail against it. But that actually creates more cohesion within the group because they know there's an insider group and there's an outsider group. And this applies in every aspect. You can see it in business, you see it in sports, you see it in politics, you see it in entrepreneurship, you see it everywhere. The most powerful people do this, whereas the people who blend into the middle and sometimes fade into the background are those who try too hard to play defense.
Yeah, I can tell you, it's one of those things I've struggled with, is that level of polarity and creating that polarity. And it's something that I do very naturally. So, of course, I've suppressed that to a higher degree in order to appeal to
Yeah, stop doing it.
And so I have content pillars. So I had memes, and I have the Take a Walk with Me where I have my ruck on, and that's the longer form videos. Then obviously the podcast. And then I talk about some miscellaneous things that are just like important to business or what people might find interesting to learn about me as an individual. I think that has put me in a position where people, if you try to help everybody, you end up helping nobody.
True.
Is what ends up happening. But it's really hard to say, okay, I'm going to step into this full polarity. And man, when I do, people are going to feel a certain way about it. And I know that's going to be the reaction, because it's going to be like, holy smokes, who is this guy? And it's been there the whole time. I just haven't shown it because my goal is to help as many people as I can. And so the easiest way from my perspective, logically, was to do exactly what I did, was to make it as inclusive as possible. And so you're telling me it's okay to step into that polarity, because then you find the people that are willing and ready and prepared to do the work.
The reality is, Jason, that the value in life is in exclusion, not inclusion.
Yeah.
I mean, if you think
That's
about it.
interesting. Yeah.
Did you go to college? Where'd you go? What school did you go to?
Bachelor's was Illinois State University. Master's is University of Chicago.
All right, perfect. So when you were in college, you think about it, who were the most popular groups of people on campus?
I don't know, because I went as an old man.
Okay. All right. So,
In my 30s and my 40s.
okay. But still, you still understand the point. So anyone who goes to college, especially if you're on campus, I guess is more obvious. If you're like living in dorms and stuff, the most not very valuable, most popular people on campus are the athletes, the fraternities, and the sororities. And why is this? Because they're in exclusive groups that not everybody can be a part of. Everybody sees it, but you can't be on the football team. You're not on the basketball team. You're not in that sorority. You're not in that fraternity. There are groups that you can see, but you have to do something to get in. And if you don't do it successfully, you can't get in. So I don't know exactly the rules of frats and soros, but I was on the sports team. There's a limit. Everybody can't play. There'd be 50 great players on the campus, but only 12 on the roster. And that jersey means something because of the exclusivity of it. And I come from the sports world. And when you make something exclusive, not saying, hey, only 12 people can join my coaching program, not like that, but saying this is for this type of person. And if you're not this type of person, you don't even have to tell them it's not for them. They will tell themselves it's not for them, and they will see their way out. Exactly. And the people who it is for, they're going to raise their hand, and they're going to, the fact that they're part of the group, because they know that by the way you announced it, they know that not everybody's going to show up. Only people like them are going to show up. And it's an unspoken language. They already know they're part of something that not everybody's a part of.
Quick break here to recommend a friend's show that I truly enjoy called Rugged Counseling with Trey Tucker. If you're ready for direct, actionable strategies to master your mindset, strengthen your relationships, and truly build the life you're striving for, Trey is a licensed therapist who provides just that. No detours, just practical guidance. You can find Rugged Counseling with Trey Tucker wherever you get your podcasts.
It's interesting. Dre, what's something that you're interested in right now, or that you're working on, or that is important to you?
Enterprising. And by enterprising, what I mean is taking the work on your game entity and making it more as much as possible into its own entity to where it does not involve Dre Baldwin. This business has become what it's become because me. I'm a grinder. I'm a hustler. I'm a wake up early guy. I'm a do the work guy. My brand is called Work on Your Game for a reason. But at the same time, there's only so much grinding you can do at it past a certain point, because you get to a certain point in anything in life. It's a little bit different in sports, but anything outside of sports is a surprise. At the grinding gets you to a certain level of achievement, status, accomplishment, etc. But in order to go to a higher level, you can't just outwork the world. Elon Musk, for example, I saw it was noted he was worth $400 billion something dollars. Now, is he working a million times harder than everybody else? Absolutely not. He's probably not working as hard as most people who work for him. So why does he have that position? Because he has leverage. And leverage is when 1 unit of your effort produces 10 units of output, as opposed to 10 units of output to produce one level of result. And a lot of people end up in the grind mode. It's grind, output, grind, output, grind, output. When you have leverage, it's, yes, there's effort, but that effort produces 10 units of output. So now you have leverage and you get more results based on less effort. And that's really what I'm looking to create, which is an enterprise. When I say enterprise, what I mean is going to a big company. Let's say Tesla. And I say, hey, Tesla, you got a bunch of salespeople. They need to be disciplined. They got to perform at a high level. They need to be held accountable without someone looking over their shoulder. Plug our system into your internal training systems, and you got 1 million staff members, and you're going to pay us this much money to license it. And now they can learn from Dre Baldwin without me shaking anybody's hand. I don't have to do a consulting workshop. I don't have to do a speaking gig. I don't have to do anything. We just get the system into them. The system came from me. I collect the money and they're getting the value. Everybody wins. So it's about creating a new entity and making sure that entity is rock solid so that Work on Your Game can impact a lot of people without Dre Baldwin having to actually shake every hand of those people.
So is this more of a HR integration?
It can be in someone's internal learning system. It can be, I could do a workshop depending on the size of the team. I do things like that. And it's really about making sure that every single aspect of even everything we talked about here, aside from my personal story, is codified to where someone else who has never met me can consume it and they can benefit from it and they know exactly what to do with it and they can apply it to their work or business.
It's interesting. So are you also doing then corporate training? So you provide a system that is already, I don't know, a series of like 30 videos, corporate training that
Exactly.
they're doing quarterly or whatever their system is set up for. Is that what that is?
Yeah, it can be that. It can also be, we can take, let's say I have the whole system and I have a whole system. I can say, hey, you all can just license this system from me and they take it exactly as it is. Or they can say, you know what, Dre, we want to integrate this into everything that we have and we want to buy a license and we want to license it for 3 years. Or somebody may come and say, Bill Gates will say, Dre, you know what, we just want to buy the whole thing. I say, all right, Bill, $1 billion, Bill. And I can sell the whole thing to Bill or whoever, and they have the whole thing and it's gone and is out of my hands. And now I go do something else. So we can license it, meaning you have it for a certain amount of time, and or it could even get to the point that the entire system gets sold. So if they buy it, they do whatever they want. If they license it, then we negotiate what they can do, what they can't do.
It's awesome. How cool is that?
It'll be cooler once we get it into the right hands.
That's part of the work, right?
That's right.
That's the exciting part of everything, is recognizing that you were able to take something this far and now there's so much more room for growth, and it's uncomfortable and it's going to take some time and it's going to take getting in front of the right key players, and you've done it before. So of course you're going to do it again and you'll continue to do it.
That's right. And one thing I'll add to that, Jason, that is important to know in business as opposed to sports. Now, the sports world is all about performance, because in sports, the bottom line is the scoreboard. And the scoreboard is an objective arbiter that has no personal feelings or opinions. The business world is completely different. Even though you had to perform, the ultimate arbiter is a human, and humans have feelings, opinions, biases, good days, bad days, etc. So in sports, nobody has to like you. You can still do great if you're a great performer. In the business world, nobody likes you and you're great, you'll fail. So the business world is a lot more about who you know. You do need to be good. It is what you know, because who you know will get you in the room, but what you know will keep you in the room. So who you know gets you on the phone with the person who can help you take what you know to the next level. So it's very much a relationship business. It's very much a networking, connection, making people know your name, knocking on doors type of deal, as opposed to the sports world where it's just about get on the field and show that you can catch a football, throw a baseball, make a 3-point shot. It's important that the listeners, everybody understand that the relationship aspect in business is a huge part of business. And if you ever see someone in business who doesn't seem to be that good, but they seem to be getting a lot of results, it's because of what I just said.
So what if somebody underestimates just how much they know? I think it's really easy for us to be totally competent and capable, but not confident in the area you specialize in. And so you don't fully understand just how capable you are in comparison to potentially the people that you could be working with and for.
A lot of people never figure it out. And it's an interesting thing. It's one thing that people have to be, this is something that AI can't quite uncover for a person, because AI wouldn't know which questions to ask. As of right now, let's just say, because that may change in 5 years, but AI can't tell you what questions to ask it. It can give you great answers if you ask the right questions, but if you don't know the right questions, you can't get the insight. That's where humans still have an advantage. So it's helping people uncover and understand. Like, do you understand how valuable that is, what you just said? If you can package that up in such a way that the people who need it, they know that you have it and they know what it'll do for them, they'll pay for that. A lot of people don't know that. They don't understand. And that's the reason why the codification is such a big deal. The codification simply means, in this context, taking the things that are in your head that you understand, that you know that someone else needs, and putting them, quote unquote, on paper in such a way that someone else can learn from it without having to ask you personally a single question, because everything that's in your head, you already have it mapped out and all the answers are final.
Yeah. So they can read it and not have to go to ChatGPT to ask it questions about it.
Or you can have a custom GPT that they can ask questions to that is trained on this very thing that you're giving them.
And that is really the next thing, I think, for a lot of people to have that available.
Oh, that's coming. Next 5 years, everybody, not everybody, but anyone who wants one will have one for cheap.
Yeah. So if somebody wants to learn more about you and connect with you or work with you, how do they do that?
They can just go to workonyourgameuniversity.com. There you can learn more about our programs, working with me. My social medias are wide open, so I'm on every social platform. So whichever one you use most, just look up my name, Dre, as Dre Baldwin. I'm very easy to find on all platforms. And yeah, from there, you can send a DM or a message, and my EA or me will get back to you.
And Dre, was there a question that you wish that I would have asked you?
For what person? If you give me a specific person, I can maybe tell you a question.
No, just in general for you to best represent you and everything that you're doing.
One question is, let me see. If a person feels like because you asked the question of what if someone doesn't know how good they are? What about if someone thinks they're really good, but their results are not reflecting it?
Yeah.
Yeah. So I call that the AWOL effect. So instead of absent without leave, we mean ability without output or leverage is what the AWOL effect is. You feel like you're better than your results said.
Yeah. How does somebody overcome that? How do you create the awareness?
They have the awareness that they don't have the results that they want. So we got to figure out, how do we get the output and how do we get the leverage? And that usually is a reflection of, sometimes it's a reflection of mindset. There is some mindset piece in it, but it's often the strategy and the system. So it's like trying to see a sunset, but you keep looking to the east. No matter how strong the binoculars are, you're not going to see it. You're just looking the wrong way. So we had to change the circumstance, change the direction that you're looking, change the approach, alter the system, or install the system. Is usually the case, is that there is no system. Install the system, and now you're going to start getting the outcomes that you're supposed to get based on your skill set.
Yeah, or the system itself. They might be running a decent system, but there's so many holes that it's just leaking out everywhere, and it's not functioning in an optimal way for them and what they're doing.
Yes, and oftentimes, in my experience, it's being generous to even call what a lot of people are doing a system. That's often what the case is.
That's awesome. Okay, I can't thank you so much for being here today, man. It was good to meet you.
Absolutely. I appreciate you having me on, Jason. Thank you for the opportunity.
Hey, Blueprint listeners, if today's conversation resonated with you and you're ready to truly unlock your own personal transformation, I invite you to explore the Self-Discovery Blueprint. This is where we dive deep into the strategies and insights you need to understand who you are, clarify your purpose, and build the life you're truly meant for. It's the comprehensive guide to your next level growth. You can find out more by visiting my Stand store, link in bio, or in the show notes.